I remember last time we spoke like a quarter ago or so. I asked you questions like, what was the situation before you started working with us?
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously, right at the very beginning, when we were sort of probably a smaller business, we had just internal personnel and one external developer that was just helping us with projects. The issue that we had at the time, obviously, the lack of knowledge to a certain degree with certain projects, certain platforms, and obviously, one external developer didn't give us enough flexibility really for where we wanted to be as a company and to grow. So consequently, we contacted you guys. You helped us out with some projects initially, and obviously then discovering that you guys were an agency yourself with multiple resources, it kind of clicked and made a little bit of sense for us to sort of look into that a little bit more. Having the consistency of working with one person or agency that has multiple resources allows us to be more flexible with workload, with experience, knowledge, and it just made sense for us that if we want to grow our business, we needed to have the flexibility of resources on hand to be able to do that effectively without any disruptions to our clients. So it was sort of a bit of a no-brainer with us really, is that we moved forward, obviously, especially finding someone that we were happy to work with, found we felt comfortable working with, that had the knowledge and experience that we needed. And obviously, the response of communication and addressing issues with yourselves was superb. So it made sense for us to sort of capitalize on that and look into that a bit more to help us as a business.
How's the results you see changed when you start working with us?
The main one is obviously being able to run multiple projects at the same time. I think, where we were always restricted was the fact that, there was always a time delay between being able to start certain projects because our resources were already full. We were at max capacity in terms of resources. And so therefore, we were taking on client work, but we're having to let them know that we probably won't be starting for maybe, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever that might be, because of existing workloads. Obviously, get moving over to working with yourselves, it allowed us to run in parallel multiple projects. And so therefore we could then take on more projects. We weren't losing work as such because obviously, as you know, people want projects started yesterday. When you're telling them 6 to 8 weeks before we could even start, they're like, and then that pushes them to go look elsewhere for somebody who can start sooner. There was a case where we were losing some projects, not because of price we couldn't do. It was just purely the case we couldn't deliver in a time, in the time frame that they were looking for ideally. So obviously moving over to yourselves and working with codelibry, it's enabled us to now be able to take on projects with a peace of mind that we could deliver a project within a reasonable time frame for them. That's the biggest thing for us really, and obviously the response times back to those projects as well.
Could you walk through a project where our team made a big difference?
That's probably worked the best. We've taken on a project which we didn't really know. We had the site converted, which you guys done for us, and it was multi language as well. And that the skills that you had to be able to do that for us made a big difference. That wasn't something which we probably had in house to do.
Mhm.
So that certainly helped along that side of things. I mean, say the biggest difference is just the response times. I think across the board for all projects, and the communication that we've had with you guys has been great. It's allowed us to keep clients up to date regularly as well. When you're only working with one developer, timeframes are really slow, and we've been able to get through multiple projects, which has enabled us to progress the business a bit more.
How would you describe us to another agency owner considering working with us?
Very efficient would probably be one of the words. Friendly, knowledgeable. We've not come across anything that has ever been a problem for you guys. Even if it's something which you're not quite that familiar with, you've always been good to us. You've always looked, done some additional research if needed, looked into what the best possible ways for projects and come back to us on it. No project or no task has been too big or an issue for you to look into, and I think that's great to know. Obviously, like everything, we don't expect everybody to be. It's good to know that you're happy to look into things and help wherever you can. So for us, it's been great working with you guys, and yeah, I'd have no problem sort of speaking to other agencies or individuals that are looking for additional resources to assist.
What would have happened to Nextgen Marketing if you didn't hire us?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard to know really. I mean, I suppose like to say, if we'd have continued the way we were, we wouldn't have been able to grow as a business because just the lack of resources just wouldn't have allowed us to have done that. We would have probably only been taking 3, 4, 5 projects on a year rather than 10, 15. It's just allowed us, would have been a bit more mindful about taking on projects, especially if they're larger projects, because we know that the time frame that we'd got to deliver those wouldn't allow us to take on many projects. So we might have been a bit of a stalemate in terms of where we are as a business and where we wanted to go. I mean, obviously we would have been looking around, then we might have found other agencies that would have been able to give us a similar sort of thing, but whether we'd have got the same response, whether we'd had built up the same kind of relationship that we have with Codelibry, we're unable to sort of to say. But I think, we would have certainly been continuously sort of looking for other resources. But I think we're quite fortunate at the time that we sort of fell upon each other's presence, if you like, worked, was great timing, and we haven't obviously needed to look elsewhere. So we're happy with the choice in working with Codelibry, and hopefully that will continue for as long as possible.
Yeah. Do you remember when we first started working together?
Vaguely, it's been a few years, but it's about a couple of years ago now, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we first sort of spoke and had communication. So, I don't know where the time's gone. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it is. But considering like the first time was obviously just working directly with yourself on a couple of small projects, I think it was. Then to expand out to now, being involved with many members of your team and passing multiple projects your way, it's certainly developed over the last couple of years.
Okay. And the final question, are you going to continue working with Codelibry in 2026?
Of course, I think it's already written on the dotted line, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
already committed, so yeah, no pulling out now. So yeah, for sure, for sure.